How's everyone doing so far?
1 o'clock.
Yeah. Olga, it's what, 4 in the morning or something for you?
Yeah, it just ticked 4 in the morning.
Oh my goodness. You are a trooper.
No, I just got a big cup of coffee.
So did I, but it's not 4 in the morning here.
Thank
Well,
God.
let's introduce Cath Wood.
Hi.
Hi, Cath. How you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Fantastic. You are from Australia, right?
I am from Western Australia.
Okay. And right now you are in London. And
That's right.
apparently, I'm sorry?
That's right, which is lucky because otherwise it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning for me.
Right. Okay. Um, Tell me what a Boris bike is.
Oh, a Boris bike. It's this fantastic thing it's named after Boris, who's the mayor here in London, and I think he was the one who instigated the idea. And it's, a series of thousands of bikes all over the city that you can just hire and ride to the next spot, and you put it in the depot and off you go. But it's £2 a day, and as long as each ride is less than 30 minutes, it's free. So you just ride all day in 30-minute little increments, and it's a really good way to explore the city.
Oh, wow. That is such a cool concept. That sounds like a really good idea.
It's a really good idea. We're mixing it up with double-decker buses, so it gets pretty exhilarating sometimes as well.
I bet.
Also,
Okay. Well, let's start off with the fact that you have the popular Cath Wood website training Facebook page, and I'm going to post that right here real quick.
Mm. Hasn't been much on there lately because I've been concentrating on other things.
Uh-huh. So what do you do with your website training? Can you just start us off a little bit about that, and we'll talk more into
Yeah, sure.
about it as we go along?
Sure. I'm offering a service basically to small, generally rural business owners in Australia, and specifically Western Australia at the moment, but that's not where I'm totally restricted. My clients are people who need a professional website, or as close to it as they can get, but they don't have thousands of dollars available to pay somebody else to do it. And what I'm really wanting to do is to empower people to take control of their own websites and to be able to update those on a regular basis. Because what I found was that a lot of small business owners, the ones that do get someone to build a site, never add anything because every time something has to be done, it's another $200. And they've never got $200 to do that.
Sure. Hmm. Well, that sounds
So,
like a really good idea, helping those that, yeah, there are those kind of businesses that really need a website. They don't have a real big budget. And I've found most of the time in my line of work also, people are willing to kind of take charge of their website if you can just teach them a little bit. And that sounds exactly like what you're trying to do.
yeah, that's right. And it actually started for me because a lot of the clients that I was working with are the same kind of clients that I'm working with now in my workshops. And like sometimes I see on the Divi Theme Users group that people are complaining because their client has taken them a month to get content to them. And I just laughed to myself because I've still got clients that, started their sites over a year ago and I'm still waiting for photos. And
Right, yeah.
And it just seems to be that a lot of the people that I was working with are just really busy. They know that they need a website. They know it should be the top of their priority list, but actually it's always second on the list because one thing is always more important than that. So in the end, I thought, if they've got a space at 4 o'clock in the morning, with a big cup of coffee like I was doing right now, then, they need to be able to use that half an hour to work on their website because that's when they're ready. And, I'm not ready at that time. So it was never working. This way, people can do it when they please.
Hmm. Fantastic. So is that something you have a training session or a training program, I guess, and once they get through with that program, that empowers them to do it themselves and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's the theory, but as you would all know, it's a huge topic. So actually, the workshop day, it's a full day workshop that I run. So people come together in a room and I'm physically there with them and we go through a whole lot of things. But by the end of the day, they've had, a fairly major brain explosion. And of course, that really is where the learning starts almost, because then people have to go away and spend time with it. And that's when the questions start to come in. And that's why I have a private Facebook group for my graduate students.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Cass, can I ask a question?
Yes.
For your training, do you only use WordPress? Like, do you only train people with WordPress or any website?
No, absolutely. It's only WordPress and it's only Divi.
All right.
Divi specific. Wow.
A Divi specific because, imagine you've got 4 or 5 or 3 or whatever, however many people in a room. And, some of my clients don't know Control-C, Control-V, things like that. When I run a little session of computer tips and tricks to impress your teenagers. And for a lot of people, that's the biggest highlight of the day. So, I have to keep things as simple as I can, and that means one theme, absolutely.
Well, I love your website. I love the kind of the modern flat design of it. It's easy to read. It's very inviting. I'm going to guess that you obviously you did that site yourself, right? We were talking about a little while ago. You needed to make an update to it.
Yeah, that's right. I just noticed on the front page that the edit that I'd made hadn't held, so I've just changed that now to reflect the current situation. And yeah, I built this myself using Divi, and it's okay. I don't love it. I'm not a designer, and that's obviously working with a professional designer would give it a whole different thing. But we do what we can, don't we?
Yep. And I hear you. I'm not much of a designer myself. I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of person, but still, I really like that site an awful lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, let's see. We talked a little bit last night, which was actually earlier this morning for most of us before the show, and it looks like you're willing to give credit where credit is due regarding the site development process. But you've also come up with a set of tools yourself that you use, and I actually spent quite a bit of time just trying to digest everything that you have in there. It's really cool. Well, let's just start with on your site. You talk about a gold image site. What is that?
Yeah, I don't actually refer to that on my site because that would be way too confusing, I think, for most people. I don't think I do anyway, but I did speak to you about that. And the gold image site it's what I set up, and I must give a shout out to Mark Conger here because he's the one who taught me how to do this, and he's taught me how to do many other things as well. But it's the site that I set up as a kind of a starting point because I find that rather than giving my students a blank slate and a box of crayons, it's better to give them something that's kind of a finished product in a way, so that they can have a look behind the scenes and see how each thing's done. So that site is set up with a home page and an about page and a contact page, with some dummy content. And then there's also a whole lot of design inspiration pages, just showing people, you can do this or you can do that or you can try this. There's one page, for example, called One Image 4 Ways, and it shows the exact same image, but it's as a full width slider, with words, so that you can see how the words change the height of the slider. It's just as a full width image and then a full width image with no gutter. So, it allows people to kind of have a look behind and go, oh, this is how this is done, so then they can create their own thing. And I've got a few layouts in there as well, so some really nice layouts just to give people an example of the kinds of things they might be able to do. And it's set up with a fully configured security plugin, so I'm using all-in-one for that, and the backup plugin. So all of that stuff is kind of set up, ready to go, and then I just set that up, like I migrate that onto each of the development sites for each student. So they all have exactly the same thing to start with. At the beginning of the day, they've got a website that's exactly the same as their neighbours, and then by the end of the day, everybody's got something different because they start to replace it with their own material.
Wow. Okay, I understand. So So basically you have a template site set up that everybody can use. You have some content that is duplicated in different variations, and this whole thing allows people to play with it, and yet everyone is on the same page. Is that kind of?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So during the thing, I can go, okay, so go to your about page, and now now we're going to, at the start of the day, after I've covered some basic SEO, we do an image optimization workshop, and I think we're going to talk about that next. But once I've optimized an image, I get them to upload it to the media library, and then put it onto the about page, and then I get them all to add some words and to add a background color and to change the padding and to change the font and do a few advanced things so that they all end up with something kind of similar, but they've put their unique slant onto each one, and then I get them to save that into the library so they learn how to use layouts, and they import that into another page, and so they're all doing their own thing, but everyone's pressing the same buttons, and so even when I've got quite basic users there, I can still get them all through the same journey.
Wow.
It's taken a while to develop this.
That is amazing. That's like the perfect Divi training classroom, it sounds to me like.
Yeah, and it's eventually I'd love to do this as an online course, but I'm finding that the in-person workshops are really instructional for me because I'm getting to work with so many different people of so many different levels that I can see what trips people up, how they learn, what questions they ask over and over again, what kind of needs to happen. And so each workshop really I modify things a little bit more, and every time I run a workshop I think it gets better so that people are getting a better outcome.
Fantastic.
Yes. Shannon is just asking you a question. If you do workshops in person, or do you do some remote training via webinar and screen share?
Sorry, Olga, can you say that again? Do I do workshops only in person?
Do you do all your workshops just in person, or do you do your training via webinars and screen share?
Right. At the moment, at the moment it's just in person, but all of that is leading towards doing the exact same thing via however I just end up finding out the best ways to share it via webinar or screen share or video. I'm not sure yet how it's going to be, but yeah, what I'm doing now is a training ground for something, what I'd like to do much bigger.
So, Cass, if you've got clients that are not in your town, do you travel to them, or they have to come where you are?
Oh, Olga, as a fellow Australian, I think you would know that there's a lot of travel involved anywhere. So, yes, I drive thousands of kilometres all over the countryside, up and down, back and forth, round and round. It's just totally crazy. So that's it's quite kind of a big price to pay in terms of my time and fuel costs and so on, especially when I go somewhere with 4 people booked in, and then it turns out that 3 of them end up pulling out for various reasons, and I run a private workshop, which has happened, and it can be quite disappointing when that happens. But that's another reason why I'll eventually move to the online model instead.
So how long have you been doing this for?
The workshops I've been doing for just over a year, and it kind of, this first one really happened a bit by accident. Somehow I'm not really quite sure exactly how it happened, but somebody asked me and I thought, oh yeah, I could do that. And then after I did, I went, this is the way to do it. This is so great.
It sounds to me like with the way Divi is growing, everybody knows that, and there's no signs of it stopping. It sounds like you have a really good a thing going on here to where once you get the online training set up, I can imagine people will be lining up outside the virtual door just waiting to be able to get into one of your classes.
Yeah, Terry, I'm really excited about that actually, because I could have gone straight into the online model, but having done all the in-person workshops, I'm immensely glad that I didn't, because I would have done something completely different to what I now know that I'll do, because I've seen, doing an online one, I won't be able to see how people are learning. But when I'm standing behind them and I'm watching what they're clicking, sometimes I think I should video for Nick Roach how people use Divi, because I see people doing, trying to click on certain places all the time, and it's just like every person does this exact same thing, and he could make one little change and it would make it so much better.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really, I don't even know what to say. That's so right. Maybe as developers, sometimes we anticipate the way we think things should work, and then we get surprised when we find out how people are actually using it. So I guess it is really good for you that you did the in-person training before you even decided to start the online training. That's got to be a great experience.
Yeah, that's right. It's been really instructional, and so it does make me really excited about the next step.
You were mentioned earlier about image optimization and things like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you told me about was Cath Wood's SNAP rule.
Yeah.
Can you go over that just a little bit? I know you've already mentioned about image optimization, but maybe you can expand on that just a little bit for us.
You said that right too, Terry, which is great, because it's not the SNAP rule. It's either the SNAP rule or the SSNAP rule, because it's got two S's at the start.
Right.
You have
like a snake saying it.
Yeah, that's right, because it's SSNAP, which stands for size, name, alt tag, and progressive. So I'll say that again: size, name, alt tag, progressive. And the reason I came up with this was because I spent a lot of time researching and understanding image optimization, because in rural Australia we have quite slow internet, and my clients are in rural Australia and a lot of their clients are in rural Australia. So it's really important that they build websites that are fast. And, the quickest way that you can slow down a website is to bloat it like a fat pig full of big, enormous images. So I started off telling my students that it was really important to optimize images, and then I found that a few of them were still uploading big ones. So now I make it really clear in the workshops. It's one of the first things I tell them, that if I ever find a big image in their media library, I'll hunt them down and kill them myself.
Yeah, and give them a big fat F, a failing grade.
Yeah. So the size refer to the size in kilobytes and the size in pixels. And so I teach people about the appropriate pixel size and the appropriate kilobyte size. And my rule is that any image that's going into the media library over 100 kilobytes better have a really good reason why, and it should be the only image on the page, because anything bigger than that starts to really impact on things. And people who build websites in really fast cities like London, where I am right now, you don't notice that kind of thing because everything loads up so fast. But we really notice it out where we are in rural Western Australia.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Some people in some parts of the world are really spoiled with super fast internet speeds, and they don't realize what they're doing by putting in a 2 or 3 2-megabyte files or images on their website.
Yeah.
So when you have limited resources, you learn how to make it as good as you can so that it works as well as it can.
Yeah, that's right. And so the size thing is really important. The other parts of the SNAP rule are the name, alt tag, and progressive. So the name, I tell people to name images something like steak.jpg rather than P106423.jpg, which was what it was on their camera.
Right.
Because, although you mostly can't see it, people like us who right-click and inspect, we can see what people have called the images. And in any case, Google much prefers to have some ideas about what the image is, because, they're good, but they can't see photos yet.
Right. So that's kind of an SEO thing as well, as naming your images correctly.
That's right. And then, of course, the most important one is the alt tag, which in my workshops I refer to as the blind man description. So that's really making sure that you recognize that Google knows everything about everything, except they can't see pictures yet. And so you have to give, just a good description that I always say, do it like you're explaining it to a blind person or somebody who can't see your screen. So it shouldn't be jam-packed full of keywords, because that's just not ever going to work for you. But it should just be a kind of a normal sentence explaining what the thing is that strikes at least one of your keywords, so that, you get some juice along there.
Right. Okay.
And
And
the final part is progressive, and it's really important that images are progressive, and it's something that a lot of developers don't even seem to know about, let alone do. So I teach my people how to make an image progressive, and I have two tools that I give them. One that shows that allows you to test whether an image on your computer is progressive, and the other one that allows you to test whether an image that's online is progressive. So all of my students optimize the images, and then they test to make sure they're progressive, then they upload them to the media library.
fantastic. Now I have a question for you that I don't actually know. Are JPEGs the only image types of images that you can make progressive?
Yes, as
Okay.
far that is my understanding. If you've got a PNG image, you can't make that progressive. It's a whole different type of thing.
Right. Okay. And just a little bit more on this, and this gets a little bit deeper. Recently, WordPress came out with the responsive image type of technology where it kind of decides which image to use. Divi doesn't have that right now, but are you kind of explaining to your students that it's possible to look in maybe your FTP or something instead of the media library to actually pick out a more appropriate size picture based on what's being done with that page?
No, that is. I mean, if I was to mention FTP in a workshop, I would, just contribute to like things like that. That's a giant topic.
Right.
That I just can't go there. There's certain things that that people really don't need to know, and
Yeah.
they're just learning. Like, seriously, I'm not saying that to be condescending. It's just that when you've got
Oh,
people
no.
who know nothing about a topic, they are taking in so much new information that, like, I've had people in tears before because they just get to about lunchtime and they're like, oh my God, I can't do any more. And then, we work through that, and by the end of the day, they're okay. But people always feel, like they've taken in a lot of new information. So I'm really careful about what I actually, sort of feed through in my course, because it's like, is the importance of this justified in the fact that these people will have to take this new information in amongst so much other new information? So, I'm mostly teaching people about choosing an appropriate image for the purposes they're going to do. And, I don't generally say to people, if it's going to be a quarter of a column, do it 225 pixels, even though that's the official size, because they might later on want it to be half or a third. So I kind of go, make it either 510 or 1080, so that gives you kind of the options to use it, big or small, because,
Okay.
otherwise end up uploading
So,
6 images.
yeah. So as a training course, the material needs to be easily digestible.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's got to be
Okay.
something that, imagine your mum or someone. I mean, I am actually astonished by the level of, computer kind of, what is it when you're illiteracy, really, in a lot of the people that I work with, like people who are of, my kind of age group or younger, that I would just expect would be really familiar with a computer, are just not.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that's really surprised me, and it's something that's been one of the most instructive things for me, is I can't assume that other people are as skilled on a computer as I can. They can't find their way around folders or, the internet. It's like,
Well, you must be a really good teacher if you can handle that type of thing. I personally, boy, my hat's off to you, because I would get really frustrated, to be honest.
It is something I really enjoy doing, but I have had moments of frustration, late in the afternoon.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it does. But usually I'm working with ladies. I've only had a couple of men in my workshops, and it's the kind of thing that by that stage we're all laughing and having a pretty good time together. So that when somebody does do something, I can kind of have a bit of a go at them, but it's sort of tongue in cheek as well. It's like, oh, stop being such a retard, you just press on this, yeah. And then, we can all laugh and it's okay, but we sort of can also release some of that frustration.
Sure. Oh, my goodness. Well, to wrap, I'm sorry, Olga, go right ahead.
Yeah, no, I just got a question here from David. Cass, David is interested. Do people desire to learn, or are they just interested in creating the final product?
That's a
That's a good
really good
question.
question, actually, David. Yeah, I have. I think I could probably say 95% of the people that have come along actually want to create their own website for their business. But I do get a few people who are just keen to learn a new skill, or they've had some other kind of similar experience. Maybe they used to do a bit of HTML coding or something like that, and so they want to kind of find out what's happening now in the world. So there is a little bit of that. I don't know that I've spawned any, professional developers yet, though.
All right. Yeah, that fantastic question. I see that a lot too. You kind of wonder, especially in Facebook groups, those of us that are really active in the groups, you can kind of start to tell who are wanting to learn or who are just, tell me how to do it so I can get it done.
Yeah, right.
That
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
So, okay, we have
Yes, we just have another question. Michelle
yeah.
is asking, what is like interaction in your private Facebook group?
What was the how do people get an introduction?
No, what is the interaction? Like, how often, I guess, and is there too many questions from people in your private Facebook, like between
No,
your,
actually, there's nowhere near as many as I would like. I would like my people to be in there all the time, but the same problem that I spoke about, I was saying earlier that the clients I was working with are always too busy. They're busy with the rest of their business life. The same thing happens with my workshop students. So they'll come along, they'll do the workshop, but then they go back, and a lot of them don't get back to the website, for a long time, or sometimes ever. So generally in the week after a workshop, they'll get in there and ask a few questions. And then sometimes I'll get somebody who came to the workshop 3 months ago and they can't even remember how to log in.
the
Yes,
generality?
not as much as I'd like, actually. It's not like I'm run off my feet with questions from the group.
well, I'm pretty sure that's going to change once you go to online training.
Yeah, and thank goodness my colleague, who many of you will be familiar with, Alicia Hughes, she's joined me in the group, and we'll be doing some things together in business because she knows a lot more than me about a lot of the questions, a lot of the more detailed, more advanced parts of building a website. So I call on her expertise when we get beyond, because I'm not an expert at all. I don't pretend to be an expert. I know very little about CSS. I'm highly skilled at asking for help from more highly advanced people than me, but I'm very skilled at introducing to the Divi and building websites to beginners.
Cass, Moore is asking, do you offer any content or tips in your Facebook group?
Any content or tips, as in, so if somebody puts up their website, for example, and we have a look at it, that kind of thing?
Yeah, just any.
Yeah, something like that, or maybe just random off your head as you discover them kinds of things. I think both of those would apply.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm in the workshops, I really enjoy talking to my students about their businesses and what it is that they're doing, and who their customers are, and what their best ways are going to be to reach that. All those kind of business questions. I find that really fascinating and exciting to be part of that. And I like to continue that beyond the workshop too, so that when people are putting things, if they bring up their page in the group, or if they write to me privately about that, I'll always come back and say, hey, how about this? Have you thought about doing that? Because I really am really excited and passionate about getting a really good result for my students. I want them to build amazing websites that people go, you built that yourself? Are you serious?
That is fantastic. That's the way a teacher should be. Okay, you may have mentioned this, but you're going on with so much good stuff here that I might have missed you talking about it. But can you tell us, if you've already mentioned it, can you tell us a little bit more about Cath Wood's rule of 10%?
I'm so glad you asked, because I was thinking I better make sure that we cover that, because that's important too. That's also part of the image optimizing, and I call these Cath Wood's SNAP rule and Cath Wood's rule of 10% because I made them up, and I tell my students, don't Google this, because this is just kind of what I've decided is a good thing.
It's proprietary.
No, not at all. Feel free to use it, everybody. It's like basic stuff, but I've just put it together into things to make it easy to understand. The rule of 10% says that no image should be more than 10% of its size in kilobytes as its size in pixels. So if, for example, an image is 795 pixels wide, it shouldn't be any more than 79.5 kilobytes. And in fact, I go more like 8 or 9%, so it might be more like 60 or 65 kilobytes. And it just makes it easy for people to remember. It's like, oh, okay, this is, a 510 wide image, so it should be about 50 kilobytes.
Wow.
So that's a really good showcase. What programs do you teach your students, your clients, to use for optimizing images?
My favorite, absolutely hands down favorite program is Riot, RIOT, which is Radical Image Optimization Tool. It's an absolutely fantastic, simple little program that you download to your computer. And that's a really big deal for me because in rural Australia where we have, really limited internet, I have 10 gigabytes a month to run my internet-based business. So I can't be uploading 5 megabyte images to the internet because that'll just use up all my allowance, in one hit. So we have to have images, we have to have a tool that's on our computer, and Riot does that. And it's just a really handy, you've got this great little handy slider that goes to left and right that gives you exact control over quality versus size in kilobytes. Unfortunately, it can't be used on Mac. So I considered banning Macs from the workshops, but then I found them another tool.
That's a good one. I did not know about that one.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, people, a lot of Mac users have got Photoshop, so they can just use Photoshop, and that's fine. But do you want me to hang? I think I have to move locations because the owner of the home I'm staying in has just come home. So I'm going to just run away for a minute. Hang on.
Okay.
No, I'll go upstairs. It's fine. Okay, I'm going upstairs. So you can enjoy your own home. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. Hopefully you were invited.
Oh yeah, we're invited. But my husband did say to me earlier, just remember that when he comes home, there's a pretty important football match on tonight that he's going to be watching.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
It's what happens when you're freeloading, isn't it? See, if I was paying money for a hotel, I wouldn't do that, but I'd have not as much fun.
That's true.
Okay, so that's Cath Wood's rule of 10% that decided on.
Very cool. I'm definitely going to remember that. In fact, I'm going to try to remember all of this. This is amazing stuff. I'm so glad that we stumbled upon Cath Wood.
I just have one more question.
Go right ahead.
Cath, Michelle, I believe Michelle is in London as well, and she's just asking, whereabout are you staying, Cath?
Oh, I'm staying in Clapham Common.
Well, here you go, Michelle. I don't know how far it is from you.
I don't either.
And I'm flying to France tomorrow to see my daughter, who I haven't seen for a year, and then we're going to get on a couple of bicycles and ride 1,000 kilometres around France. So any French people, let us know where you are.
Wow.
Well, Cass, it looks like Michelle is only 30 minutes away from you.
Oh, wow. Hi, Michelle.
Michelle is one of our favorites. She's an awesome part of this community, a very fascinating person.
What's Michelle's surname?
Michelle Noonan.
Oh, double, triple Michelle. Hello. I mean, double, triple hello, Michelle. Right, we better hook up. I need to go and visit Michelle tomorrow.
Yeah, it sounds like a coffee in place.
I think so. I think we might be using this as a kind of a online friend dating service.
It's something like that, right? It's Q&A sessions, and it's a good place to meet people and hook up.
Yeah.
We need to get more singles on here, I guess.
Okay. Back to
We've talked a lot about image optimization, which is very, very important. You also sort of mentioned about security and backup systems that you teach them as well, which with all the stuff that's coming in our Facebook groups and even in Google Plus, everywhere, security and backing up are so important. Can you tell us a little bit about what you teach your students with those two topics?
Yeah, sure. It's such an important topic. And of course, anybody starting out, I mean, we all learn the hard way, and that includes myself. And this is why I've sort of come to the position I am. And again, I've been really well taught by Mark Conger, and full credit to him for the excellent training that he's given me to.
Oh, Mark Conger. Yeah, I know who he's awesome. I'm sorry. I finally realized who you're talking about, but go ahead. Yeah, I love that
Yeah,
guy.
he really is awesome, and he's leveled up my skills so extensively that really I owe a lot of my business to him. So I'm really grateful for his input over the last however long it's been. But yeah, I've had both sort of sites that are quite close to me, my daughter's site, for example, and what have you, that have been hacked, and hacked to the point of no return. So it's like, oh, I had a really nice website, but now it's gone, and there's nothing I can do about it. And and I have clients who come to me and they're really upset because something's happened, and it's always the same thing. It's about being either with a bad host or having a poor password or not having proper security in place or not having a backup to get yourself out of trouble when things go wrong. So, I really teach this because I don't want my clients to be coming to me in 6 months' time with a hacked website. If they'd known what to do in the first place, they could have avoided that. But it really astonishes me how widespread this problem is, because in the last few months, I've had a school come to me wanting help with a gallery problem. I've had a non-profit association come because they needed help with a button. And I've had a big mining company in Western Australia want some training on how to upload blog posts. And in every one of those situations, I found major glaring issues: out-of-date WordPress, poor login credentials, no security plugin installed, no backups installed. People are relying on backups maybe being kept by their host and maybe being taken by the host and maybe being kept. And a lot of hosts take a backup and keep it for one day and then it's gone. So it's not, it's just not good enough. It leaves people wide open. And so I really stress that to my people. I get them to change their login URL. I make them have passwords that are so horrendous. There's no way, like it would take, 50 bajillion years for a computer to crack it and that kind of thing. But I teach people about taking backups and then storing a local backup on their own computer as well.
Fantastic. Good stuff. That is really, really important also.
Yeah, and I think, the local backup thing, Terry, is that's the biggest part of it. A lot of people, they don't do this, and I've seen people, I'm sorry to go on about this, but I'm quite...
It's very important.
It's really important. I've seen people say, because I go, oh yeah, but nothing will ever happen to my host. Nobody believes that their host will go tits up, as we say in Australia. But nobody ever expected that the World Trade Center would come down. Something that's enormous. Like, being enormous is not a guarantee of being everlasting. You know what I mean?
So don't make any assumptions about the security or the safety of your website.
Well, that's right. People put all their eggs in one basket if they trust their host with their business, the front page of their business as it was, and they don't take any precautions so that in the event that host gets hacked themselves, that they'll be still okay. And I learned this the hard way, because I used to be with the host called Arvix, who were very good. They were an excellent host that was really highly regarded and great. And then, of course, they got bought out by EIG and went way down the tube. And then some months ago, they were hacked, and it was really bad. It was, absolutely terminal to everybody that was on the host. And so, anybody who didn't have local backups, which was all of my clients, because I didn't realize how important it was, a lot of them lost things that they needed. So you can't assume that it's going to be okay. You've got to have your own local copy on your own computer.
Yep. I do that myself. Every site I've ever worked on, I've got a copy right on my computer, right here next to me.
And you'd be absolutely in the minority there, Terry.
Wow. Well,
Um,
you
can I just change the topic here
Yes.
just a little bit? Michelle asked this question, and I was just about to ask the same question, Michelle. Cass, how do you market your workshops, especially in rural Australia?
That is of my two biggest challenges. The getting bums on seats is one of them. And so I've really basically been using Facebook advertising, and I discovered before I came away on this trip that there's a season for running workshops. When I was doing them earlier in the year, I was, 3, 4 or 5 or 6 people in a workshop, no problems. And in the last couple of months, as we're leading into winter in Australia, I did about 6 or 8 workshops in a row that were all solos. So every single workshop had one person in it. And bear in mind that I'm traveling long distances for a lot of them. I spent quite a lot of money on Facebook advertising. It's the hardest part. I don't have. I wish I could say, oh, this is how you do it. Everyone should go and do this. That's the biggest challenge of running live workshops, actually.
So when you've got clients like a Western Australia mining company and such, do they get to you by referral or they found you through the Facebook as well?
No, that's by referral. That's through people that I know, people that know what I'm doing. Sometimes it comes from workshop students. Actually, they have met me, know what I'm up for, and refer me to people that they know.
And Cass, Michelle is asking another question. What is your charging model? You don't have to tell us prices, but just how you charge and what sort of.
I'm pretty happy to. I'm very happy to tell you, since it's written quite clearly on my website anyway. I charge $295 for a workshop, which includes the setup that I do before the workshop itself, and the support and training afterwards. And that's Australian dollars. So halve that for pounds and whatever you need to do for US.
Yeah. And just another question from Michelle as well. How do you make a solo workshop pay? So I guess would be the same, right?
Yeah, that's right. If somebody had booked me specifically for a solo workshop, I'd be charging them my hourly rate, so they'd be paying $75 an hour for the day, and I usually only charge to 7 hours for a day because I feel that after that my brain's not working as well as normal anyway.
So you mean 75 an hour or 75 a day?
No, 75 an hour. So if somebody booked me for a private workshop for a whole day, it'd be 550 Australian dollars. But if somebody has booked into a workshop, which I thought would have a few people, and they turn out to be the only one, then they get themselves a jolly good deal.
Yeah.
yeah. No kidding.
The people who pull out, do they still have to pay you some sort of pull out fees or
theoretically yes, and I've got that on my cancellation policy, but I really actually can't do it. I'm just not enough of a hard ass.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And it's it is one of the big challenges of the in-person thing. I actually really enjoy doing the solos because it is a much more interactive workshop. Because I'm really working with that person. There's quite a lot of psychology involved in running these workshops because I really have to kind of what I'm saying and how I'm saying it according to the person's mood, and I watch people's brains, how they actually change the processing of information during the day. And so it comes to a point where it's clear that we have to have a lunch break because their brain is going into meltdown. And then it comes to a point a bit later where it's clear that the learning has to finish now.
Do you ever get clients that you do a workshop and you just feel that, oh my gosh, this is going nowhere, and you get really tired?
Yeah, it is really, I always come home very drained from a workshop. I give a lot, so I am always quite exhausted, but I'm also usually really inspired because the people, every person is fabulous in some way. And so, it's really nice to work with each person, connecting with them and I'm helping them to take their business to another level. I'm helping them to solve a really big problem that they have, and it's a really nice thing to do that, actually.
Wow, that is just so nice thing to say. I love hearing that.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
me
and
too.
Sorry, Terry, I always feel like I keep butting in.
No, that's why we have two people, so we can keep the conversation going.
Yeah,
Just
that's
want to
good.
read another question from Michelle. She is asking, how did you start teaching workshops in the first place?
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit not sure how that happened. I sometimes think, I can't really remember. I think one day I just thought, I was actually up in the wheat belt in Western Australia where I grew up, in a very tiny little country town. And my husband was up there helping my brother with seeding or harvest. And I think at the time I must have thought, oh, perhaps I could teach some of the people in my hometown how to build their own website, and I could do it at the Community Resource Centre, because in Western Australia we have all the little rural towns have this Community Resource Centre, which is kind of one place where you can go and get internet, because in a lot of those places you can't get internet anywhere except in this one building. And so I thought about doing it there, and we kind of tried to organise it there, and never ended up happening there. I just ended up working with my mum to teach her how to do it. But then I sort of contacted a few of the other resource centres in the area and went, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and then one of them took me up, and then I had to go and do it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I loved it. I did it, and I was just like, this is great. This is so much fun.
So,
in
Cath, what is
essence,
your background? What did you do before the workshops?
Oh, we don't have enough time to cover that. I'm one of these, some people have just, like, they've just tried 50 million different things. That's me. And there's a lady called Barbara Scher wrote a book about it, or she's written lots of books about it. She calls them scanners, the people that are really interested in lots of different things, and sort of the idea of being tied down to one type of life is just, you might as well throw yourself under a train. So I've got lots of different things, but probably the most consistent in the last 10 or so years has been my involvement in the circus, actually.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was unexpected. I'm like, what? What did she say? Circus? You're gonna
Yeah,
have to say a sentence or two about that. I'm sorry, Cath.
that's fine. So my children got into circus classes when they were young, just because we had a guy who lived in our town who ran circus classes. He was a circus performer. He had his own circus, etc. And so we kind of got into it through the kids, and then he said one day he wanted to run a circus festival, and none of us knew what it was, and so then we did, and I've been involved in, it's the Western Australian Circus Festival, and we're about to have our 10th festival in January next year. So it's been a really big part of my life. I'm really involved in that organisation. And my daughter has gone on to become a professional circus performer, and she's actually in France studying at the moment for 2 or 3 years to learn how to completely nail her one-arm handstands, because that's the sort of thing you do.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That actually sounds really professional.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. You can look her up on YouTube. Just look up Cath Wood juggler, and you'll find lots of videos from her about her things. And so yes, that's a big part of my life. And in fact, that's why I'm here in England, because I've just been at the Glastonbury Festival, helping out the circus and theatre people with their part of running the festival.
Mm-hmm.
That's like completely different world.
Yeah, it is a completely different world. It's a nice break. Quite often I end up doing computer-related stuff for these organisations. I help them with their websites or their PR, writing press releases and other kind of logistics and planning and all sorts of things. But I always find that what I do there feeds back into my business, because it's all learning and advancing your skills, isn't it?
Yep. I've about run through the list, so if you guys have any more questions.
No, you haven't. There's a big one missing. There's a whole topic we haven't covered yet.
Oh, which one is that? I'm sorry.
The other biggest challenge of my business, and I believe because it's about beginners, I believe it's the biggest challenge for all beginners, is the.
Here, I'll paste what you said right here.
Where are you pasting it?
In the voice channel chat. This is where you talked about giving them the keys to an enormous room full of paint and brushes with a great big blank canvas, and there you go, make some art.
Exactly. It's that's just the biggest thing. It's like, you give them the keys to the kingdom and say, there you go off and make yourself a professional website. And in fact, design is really, really difficult. And
Yeah.
it's very easy to make a website that looks like a kindergarten kid was advising you on how to do it. So that I find is the biggest challenge for my students, and it's why I'm really, really excited by the direction that Divi has taken recently with the layouts and the library. And I spend quite a bit of time teaching my students how to use the library. And, big shout out to David Blackman and the crew at Aspen Grove Studios for doing the layouts that they've done, because
Here. Amen to that.
Yeah. That they're what I use, they're part of the examples that I use when I'm saying to my students, hey, don't just try to do this all yourself with a blank slate. Have a look at what other people are doing and, take elements that you like from their designs and make that into your website so that you can actually get something that looks really nice to finish with. And so I get them. It was as part of my workshop, we actually install the demo 8, which is the one that's about sewing is making a comeback. I forget exactly what it's called. The art of sewing is making a comeback. And so they actually install that on their front page, on their home page, and then they delete all the sections except for that top section, and they put in their own photo and their own words. And so then by the time they leave the workshop, they've got the website that started off as something else now has their own thing on the very home page, but it's laid out in a really nice way with a funky font and, a little pink line underneath and so on. And that's sort of my demonstration to them that, look, you get this really cool thing that you wouldn't have thought up yourself, but layouts allow us to take advantage of other people's design skills.
There you go. I do that a lot myself. You just looking for inspiration.
Yeah, from other people who actually know how to do it.
Right. I've just posted the link to your websites created by workshop participants page on your site if anybody wants to take a look at that. And I think that'll expand just a little bit more on what you've just talked about.
Yeah, and I've got a few more. There's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, I'm not sure exactly how many more are coming through that are just about to launch. So I'm pretty excited about getting them up too, because there's some really nice ones are coming on at the moment. I'm looking forward to the day when that page is massive.
Because some of them look really nice, like really professional.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's really easy for us as designers and professional web and people who are in this all the time to be quite critical of our own sites and sites of others and what have you. So, sometimes when I look at those sites, I think, oh, it'd be better if, she'd done this or if she'd changed that to there or whatever. But when your average person looks at those websites, they go, wow, great. Or they don't even think that, because most people don't look at a website and think whether it's great or not. They just go there for information. I'm assuming that other people are like me. Whenever I look at a website and I see something that I like, I save that page into my design inspiration folder and I put a little note about why it's being saved there. I'm always looking critically at design and usability, but most people are not doing that.
Yeah, I have a bunch of folders full of pages like that myself, whether it's CSS or code or design layouts or even resources, image, fonts, icons, whatever, things like that. So, yeah, most people, obviously, like you said, aren't really into that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I know this for sure, because sometimes I'll mention it to my students and they'll kind of look at me with this kind of shocked look on their face, like, they'd never thought about looking at a website to see if they liked it or not, or to see what design, that kind of appeals to them. It really is something that I think, because it really is something that, because we do it all the time, because it's our job, we really do forget how differently other people look at websites and how they approach that whole scene.
Yeah, that is a challenge. You really have to kind of put yourself in the mindset of not what the client wants it to look like or what you think it should look like. I mean, it should look great, but you also have to put yourself in the seat of the people that are actually going to be viewing that website and using it, and just make it as easy to get the information that they're looking for as possible in the
that's
nicest
right.
looking possible way.
It has to deliver the information. It's extremely frustrating when you go to look at a website. You know, I mean, I know this, you know, traveling here, it's like, oh, I wanted to find out about something about the Royal Observatory at Greenwich where we went today, and I went to their website and it was rubbish. The front page, you couldn't, you know, there was nothing there. I couldn't find what I wanted to, I just left because I couldn't find it. And it's like, well, you know, it kind of looks nice, but it didn't really tell me what I needed to know.
That's what I call the very unhelpful brochure or business card site.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
All right. We need some more questions, guys. We got 4 minutes till the top of the hour. Cath, is anything sprung into the top of your head at the moment?
No, I'm just so excited about contacting Michelle to see where we can hook up.
That's going to be a blast. I wish I could be a fly on the wall right there. That would be so both informative and entertaining, I think.
Well, there was actually supposed to be the Divi theme users meetup dinner tonight. I was so excited about that, and I only just found out yesterday that it had been cancelled. So that was a bit disappointing. I was looking forward to a dinner, and at first it seemed normal, and then I was telling people, oh yes, when I'm in London, I'm going to a dinner, and then I realised I'm going to a dinner that's for other people who use the specific WordPress theme that I use.
Wow.
You know, it's like, it's completely bizarre.
I've been noticing Divi ads on just random places. Like one of my favorite sites is csstricks.com.
Right.
Font Awesome has got a Divi affiliate link. Divi is just literally exploding, even in the non-Divi environment, if you will. You know, you don't think of it's crazy. So
Well, it is.
the Divi community is exploding.
The Divi community is great, but the Divi theme is great. I mean, I've seen a lot of argument or not a lot, but I've seen the argument put forward that the Divi theme is not great for beginners. And I don't agree, because I think the drag and drop builder is just such a powerful tool. When you go to use another theme that doesn't have that, it's so frustrating. It's like, oh, well, how do I do anything? You know, it's not kind of straightforward. Whereas I think that drag and drop builder speaks to people on just a basic level. It's like, oh, you've got this block here, you can move it here, you can make it bigger. You know, it's very straightforward. Once people understand how to use those grey boxes, it kind of opens up this whole world of possibilities, accessible to everyone.
You were talking about paint and canvas and paintbrushes and things like that. I've always referred to Divi as a big box of Legos that you can use to build anything you want pretty easily.
Absolutely. And do you know, Terry, I get so excited when I get a particularly creative person in my workshop, because I know that they're going to come up with ideas that I never even considered. You know, and the number of times it has happened where they'll do something and I go, hey, how did you do that? You know, and they've figured something out. And they've figured it out because that's what they wanted, a certain look that I had never considered creating. And that's, so whenever someone says that they're an artist or whatever and they're coming to the workshop, I always think, they're going to do something really cool.
And we've got a long question from Fabio. He's saying when he starts a new project, the first thing he does is a target market analysis. He analyzes the needs of his client, and then he creates a project basis. For this type of analysis, many times I need a long time, but it is essential to create a product that is not only a website, but is also a tool to generate leads and then results. How do you know so quickly what are the real needs of your clients or students?
That's a great question from Fabio, and the short answer is that this is not that service. So when somebody comes to Fabio for a professional website that's going to answer all those questions, they're going to pay the appropriate amount of thousands of dollars to have that happen, and that is absolutely the best way to go forward. You know, I mean, that and the question of branding and getting a proper logo and all of those things is that's the ideal outcome. The people that I'm working with, are the little shop in the country town that sells country clothing, or they're, you know, the lady who makes soaps, or the lady who breeds these cute little sheep. You know, those kind of people who they just want to have a website and they don't have the thousands to build it, and so they have to build it themselves. And so those people, you know, I talk to them at the start of the day about doing some SEO research, like doing keyword research, and I show them a little bit about how to do that. And I use some of what I've learned from Karina, another London lady, Karina Darnborough. Don't know if I'm saying that name correctly.
That's the way I say it. She's another good one.
And, you know, and Andrew Palmer, like all the people that I've learned things about SEO from over the time that I've been in the group, you know, I pass that on to my students and just let them know that there's no point in building a website that nobody's ever going to find. So they have to, you know, I teach them that they have to think about Google and what Google wants all the time. You know, that's the first thing we discuss in the workshop, and we really haven't discussed that in this interview at all. But that's what happens right out of the gate as we get started in the day, because it's kind of like, I guess, about a 5% of what Fabio is saying. You know, he conducts a big proper analysis. My clients have to conduct that analysis on their own, and so I kind of talk them through a little bit about that process, and then they have to take it from there.
Okay, so what you're saying in your case basically is that all of your clients already have the same basic needs, and so you have a template in place to provide for those needs already.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think it's, you know, in the ideal world, everybody would be able to get the perfect website and the perfect outcome. But what I'm doing is allowing people who don't have the funds to do that to still create something that answers their immediate need to have a website, so that they can say to people, yeah, go to our website and see the thing. And it's something that they're not embarrassed by. You know, some of my clients have had a website for 10 years and they're at the point where they're mortified that it exists, and they just want to replace it with something better, but they can't afford to do that. And, you know, and I want them to be able to go in there and make changes as time goes by. And, you know, quite often I think that some of the people that I'm working with will use this as a first step into their website journey. And then as their business progresses and they understand, you know, because one thing that happens in this workshop, of course, is that people start to understand absolutely how huge the whole topic is and why it is actually worth paying thousands of dollars to have the job done for them. So in fact, some of my workshop clients have turned into clients proper. And so the workshop can serve as a first step, and maybe some of them will come and find Fabio later on.
So, Cath, when you show them like how to redesign their website or something, like say you've got a client that had a website built 10 years ago and it looks bad now. Do you actually show them how to set up the initial WordPress on a hosting, or do you do that for them?
Did you say, if I've already got a live website, how do we deal with that? Is that what the question is?
Well, kind of actually, yeah. Basically, I think what I would like to know is, do you teach them a little bit of how to initially set up a website, like how to actually log into hosting and set up a WordPress, or do you only do the Divi part, like from the installation?
Well, yeah, what I actually, I've got a live site. In fact, nearly in all the cases, I set up the dev site on my own hosting environment, and then when it's ready to go live on their host, I do that migration myself, because that falls into the category of this is, therefore they don't need to learn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's a huge learning curve that people don't need to be frying their brains over. They need to learn how to log into WordPress, how to find their way around, how to optimize images. The sort of stuff they're going to have to do over and over again is what I teach them.
Cath, what do you use for your migration? What migration tool do you use?
Hello?
Oh, hi, Cath. I can hear you now. That's great.
Okay, we're back.
Everybody disappeared. What happened?
I think we all lost audio, and we just have to log out and just log back again. Try to get it back.
Okay, I thought it was just because I was ad nauseum and being boring, so it just went, that's enough, stop.
No, I can assure you that wasn't it.
Not.
I mean, everybody lost audio, but I think it was a server glitch or something, because I did not log out and back in, and it just popped back up.
Right.
It all
Okay.
came on right at the same time.
So anyway, wow, I hate to have to get you to repeat yourself, but just in case or since we didn't hear what your answer was, the question was, what migration tool do you use? And sorry
Yeah.
again.
And that's okay. It's fine. I use Akiba Backup, EEBA, and I use that with the site that I'm about to move, and then I log into the cPanel, into the folder where I want it to be, which is generally the public. And then I use an add-on program called Kickstart to actually make the migration. And then it's important to remember and delete it from public HTML, otherwise the site starts to learn that the hard way.
Okay, you said Akiba. How do you spell that again?
AKA. That's everybody or another one, but and Kickstart worked well for me because of the fact that I don't have and it doesn't require me to download and upload.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a big help right there for sure.
Yeah.
All right. What else, guys? Give Cass some questions. She's ready to talk and give you some answers. This has been immensely enjoyable and informative. I can't thank you enough again, Cath, for joining us today.
So pleased, because really, the people who have been before me, I sort of thought, goodness, possibly be part of the glitterati. But, few things.
Everybody's got something to contribute, and you have most definitely been a big help. So there's no worries there. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Cass, you mentioned so many tools that I've never heard of. I'm gonna Google all of them now and see what else I can use for myself now.
Oh, excellent! I'm so pleased. Well, I can attribute all to the Divi community. I mean, I have learned, like I keep saying that Mark Conger's my because he upskills me, frequently. Okay, I'm ready for my next thing now, and then he teaches me something else that so and within the Divi, the whole Divi community is just so. We're really lucky, actually, all of us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I got to take a look at these tools myself. Some, just like Olga, some of them I've never heard of, but they do sound really good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For image optimization and for the backup, never heard about Akiba Backup, but
yeah, it's a really good tool. There's two big blue once you install it. The top one says default backup profile, and that's the one. There's one below it says backup now, but I always hit the default one, and then bango, 5 minutes later you've got a backup.
well, that is awesome. So, Cass, last question for you from me. When are you back in Oz?
Back in, I think I landed. I've got a workshop booked for the 8th of August.
Oh, right. So you have to be back by then.
Yeah, well, we'll have a month in France, hang out with my daughter, and then get back. And my first job is to run the first online course. Actually, that's pretty much as soon as I get back to Australia.
Oh, that's pretty big. So for your first
yay.
online course, will you try to market it then more wildly?
Yeah, with the online, the first one I do will be, it'll be a bit of a beta. How do people say it? A testing
Beta.
ground. So, sorry.
I just said beta. I think that's yeah.
Okay, I'll say it American. I'll be beta testing the first one. So I'll be calling.
It's Greek. It's not American.
I'll be calling for a reasonably small started so that I can make that transition from this to the online course, because I think there'll be obviously, and I'll need to have a kind of a smallish group so that I can keep it working.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
And I'm excited.
Looking forward to that.
Okay.
Also. Okay.
Sounds like we're out of questions.
I think so. And chat says that Terry is Texan, not American. I think a lot of Texans feel that way, but shoot, I'm not that prejudiced.
It's so great, isn't it? It's to take the mickey out of each other for our respective acts.
Oh yeah, boy, I thought I was going to have a hard time. My bad accent and international accents. It's worked out great. I'm really Michelle Beta. I'm really happy this has worked out so well. I've had a great time. I think everyone else has too. So I think for now, since we are about 15 minutes past the hour, let's just go ahead and try to wrap this up so everybody can get back to what they're doing.
Awesome.
And I also want to let everyone know that these are always available, usually about a week or so after the show. We have a YouTube channel that I put these on. So I'll be posting about that and let everyone know when this one is available.
Oh, good.